Today is September 3rd, 2023. Today is 1 month until I will find out if my appeal succeeds and I will be granted the right to a new trial on sexual assault charges, which I am not guilty of. I have spent more than 1,700 days on house arrest. I've been on curfew for 18 months in addition to that. I've spent more than a month in custody, all because there was an allegation of sexual assault where the complainant didn't have an excuse why she showed up late the next morning, well past her curfew, to her boss's house. She was embarrassed. There's a host of reasons that I'll post a little bit later this month on Mansion. Why somebody would make a false allegation. I think some of them you guys are already familiar with. But in 1 month we'll find out if the judicial system is fair and balanced and is able to assess the validity of factual information that proves my innocence. We're going to find out if they will allow exculpatory evidence, because there is a mountain of exculpatory evidence that proves my innocence, which so far the legal system just isn't willing to admit as fact. It's terrifying. And I sit here on this porch knowing that 30 days from now I could be going to jail for 9 years. I'm fighting for a better future for our sons, where a woman's statement can't erase your life's work. I hope you'll fight with me. One love. It's September 5th, 2023, 28 days until my appeal hearing. As you probably heard in the last video, it's been more than 1,700 days on house arrest, 18 months with curfew, pre-trial, and just over a month of time spent in custody for a sexual assault, which I did not commit. This has been a life-changing allegation, false allegation, and it's quite frankly terrifying. I've had very limited contact with my lawyers. Apparently they've done a good job at putting together the appeal factum, and the grounds for appeal are very strong. We've also submitted 3 new evidence applications to try and overturn this conviction. And the terrifying component is that my lawyers have advised me that the panel of 3 judges will be drawn 5 or 6 days in advance of the hearing itself. And they asked me if I wanted to know if we got a good draw or a bad draw. And I wasn't really sure what that meant, but effectively they said if we got a good draw, there was a good chance of the success of the appeal. But if we got a bad draw, that there was a pretty good chance of incarceration. And they asked me if I wanted to know if we had a good draw or a bad draw. And that was a tough thing to conceptualize. What do you mean a good draw or a bad draw? What do you mean if we got judges that slanted or leaned one way, it could affect the rest of my life or the next 9 years of potential incarceration? But that's the truth. When you're in this situation, when you're in the criminal law system, it's a nightmare, and you play this game of judicial Russian roulette, and there's no way to get out of it. Judges are biased too. They're human. They have natural biases. They have political leanings. And it's sad when the outcome of your life could be dependent on whether a judge had a decent breakfast that morning, if they are currently fighting with their wife, if they're disgruntled with their children. That could all affect the outcome of your case. In 28 days, my mother will drive me to the Toronto East Detention Centre to be compliant with the order that I have to surrender on the day of my appeal hearing. So I will go to jail no matter what. Fingers crossed for a positive outcome. Fight with me. It's now 20 days until I find out if I'm going to go to jail for 9 years. It's been an incredibly emotional experience. going through both the family court process where they're trying to take my son away from me, and the criminal court process where, despite mountains of evidence, they don't want to consider the truth. It's terrifying that they have these backroom discussions and everything is shrouded in silence and secrecy. I think they just don't want mothers of sons to know what a single allegation can do to a man, that it can remove the accumulations of your lifetime just based on an allegation, maybe not even made by the person who is alleging the offense. In many occasions of false allegations, the people who are claiming that there was some kind of wrong done against them didn't even make the claim. They're either incentivized or guided by lawyers or by abuse shelters, and it's wrong. It's going to lead to the degradation of our society. And I'm fighting today not only for my own freedom, but for the freedom of my son. He deserves better than this. Fight with me. One love. It's September 17th. This is 16 days until my appeal hearing. This is day 2478 on either house arrest, incarcerated, or on curfew of some kind, including lockdown when I was incarcerated, for a crime that I did not commit. 16 days, I find out if the courts will overturn a wrongful conviction and reinstate my freedom, or grant me a new trial, or maybe they'll not do that and just reduce my sentence, or maybe they won't reduce my sentence at all and I'll be sentenced still to 9 years in federal prison, again for a crime I didn't commit. As it comes closer to the day where the appeal is heard in front of a panel of 3 judges, I've had lots of interesting thoughts. Is this the last coffee can that I'm ever going to buy before I go to jail? Is this the last time I cut the lawn before I ever go to jail? Is this the last time that I will get to talk to friends before I go to jail? I'm very grateful for my family and friends who have supported me throughout this. I'm very grateful for my amazing girlfriend who stood by me through this entire process. But I'm living in the largest open air prison in the world. If you can turn the camera around, that's the street. I can walk out to that street. If I step off the property, not only is my family charged $90,000, but I'm also charged $90,000. My ex has chosen this time to take a family court action to try and remove my son from my life, and I want better for him. Fight with me. One love.
So we're now 14 days away. It's Tuesday, and in 2 Tuesdays I'll find out if my appeal succeeds or if the appeal is quashed and the conviction is upheld. Bit of a change of scenery today. I'm out in the backyard. It's a beautiful backyard. I have some amazing neighbors, especially the ones over the fence there, who've been very supportive throughout this entire process. Today I received the Crown's factum, or the Crown's arguments, stating that the expert witness in my case was in fact not biased and everything was just perfect. It's kind of to be expected. That's likely what the Crown would argue, that they weren't wrong. Lord knows they don't ever admit when they're wrong. And the judge wasn't biased, according to them, and the fact that they overstated the amount of alcohol consumed and understated her weight, the complainant's weight. They call her victim. They should call her complainant, but they call her victim. Is completely irrelevant to the toxicologist. Also irrelevant was the fact that the toxicologist opined that there was no ketamine present, And the doctor said the same thing more than 200 times in her 3 days on the stand. But that's not biased. None of it's biased. If you look at the way the court systems operate, there's clearly bias. Every human is biased. Judges are biased. We all have political leanings. They're human. And the challenge is that when political influence dictates the outcome of a trial, the best interest of justice is not served. Today I also submitted the factum where my ex is trying to remove my son completely from my life. And I don't know if I did it right. I might get steamrolled by procedure, but I'm still in the fight. Fight with me. One love. 13 days to go. A bit of a change of scenery today. I'm downtown at my appellate lawyers, having a meeting to review the Crown factum and also to review our appellate factum. I made a lot of notes on the Crown factum and communicated them to my lawyers who, obviously were not there for the entire trial, so good to have kind of first-hand evidence. Also reviewed statements that were made by all the amazing people who have been supportive of my innocence through this entire process. Today was a bit of an emotionally draining day. Started at 7 a.m. working on oral arguments for family court submissions, which are going to happen tomorrow. And then in the middle of it, kind of squeezed in a meeting downtown. I'm not going to lie to you, being able to get in a car and come downtown pursuant to the terms of my recognizance was a nice little break. The sunroof open for the first time in forever. Makes you realize how much you take for granted things like driving when you've been on house arrest for almost 7 years. So I think a positive day, positive outcome overall. I'm heading back home now to complete my oral arguments for tomorrow for the family court submission, where my ex is trying to remove my son completely from my life. She wants to change his name. And I'm up against arguably the biggest and most reputable family law firm in Toronto, in Ontario, arguably. And I'm cautiously optimistic. I know who the judge is who's presiding over the case, and he looks very fair and balanced. I'm grateful for that. And another 4 or 5 hours of work preparing oral arguments, and should be ready to go for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Fight goes on. Fight with me. One love. Back on the porch today. Thursday, September 21st. 12 days until my appeal hearing. 11 days until I voluntarily surrender to Toronto East Detention Facility. And depending on the outcome of the appeal, potentially to federal prison after that for a crime I didn't commit. Today was a bit of a topsy-turvy day. Had a family court hearing where my ex decided to effectively try and take sole custody and decision making for my son, and wants to intervene and have the ability to sign his passport, birth certificate, and all his related identity-based items without my consent. My son already told me that his new name is going to be Aubrey Klug Chambers instead of Aubrey McMillan, and I think it's a fucking travesty. Family court hearing, I was cautiously optimistic. The judge wasn't a radical feminist, and I think he was somewhat empathetic to my cause. Big thank you to everybody from CCMF who showed up in support of my call today, or of my hearing today, the motion. The judge has yet to release judgment or release his decision, but he indicates that he will favor some kind of compensation for the $17,500 worth of costs that my access lawyers have claimed for a 1-hour hearing today. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's terrifying that my ex lawyers think that it's just fine to go after money that was set aside for child support and take it for themselves. There's $25,000 set aside, and they're going after $17,500 for their own pocketbooks. You think there's not a family law mafia? You're wrong, but I'm still in the fight. Fight with me. One love. So it's Saturday, September 23rd. 9 days left until surrender before my appeal is heard. Took yesterday off. It was a bit of a rough day. I was in family court on Thursday morning and listened to opposing counsel declare that physical abuse that resulted in broken thumb, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and financial abuse from my ex for not agreeing to pay for a Section 30 assessment, or her half of the Section 30 assessment, not agreeing to pay for the lease of her vehicle. Opposing counsel just called that noise. They called that abuse noise. I wonder how that would be perceived if it was abuse alleged against a woman. They said that I didn't address the narrow focus of the hearing, which was decision-making responsibility, which I addressed very clearly with factual evidence that she should not be making decisions unilaterally, although she has been granted this, not even granted, she took that decision-making responsibility more than 27 months ago with my son. And also they've acquiesced to her request to have to dispense with my consent for all official government documentation around my son, which means that the door is now open for her to change my son's name. So he will no longer be Aubrey McMillan. He's now going to be Aubrey Klug Mitchell, which is her new boyfriend's name, apparently. And then the judge ruled, well, opposing counsel asked for $17,700 in fees. And the judge said, well, opposing counsel, you kind of fucked up and you should have put your trust in the courts, but we're going to award you $12,000 in fees. So all I really wanted was to know where my son was when she took him away on vacation. And they've chosen to rule $12,000 against me for that request, despite agreeing with it. It's been a tough couple of days. I'm excited for tomorrow's workshop on conflict resolution, and next week's workshop on Sunday is going to be preparing for prison, and that's what I'll be doing all this week, preparing for the potential negative outcome of my appeal hearing, and trying to brace for impact, so to speak. A lot of anxiety going on this week. It's tough on not just me, certainly not me, but all the people who have supported me, friends, family, my girlfriend, all of them. But I'm still in the fight. Fight with me. One love. So I'm back downtown again, meeting again with my appellate counsel, and reviewing both the Crown factum and our factum, and going through testimony and how the Crown might potentially apply the Section 276, the rape myths law, against pretty much any evidence which might be exculpatory. We discussed the fact that I didn't delete any of the surveillance footage, and willingly provided that to the police. I also willingly provided all of my passwords for all of my electronic devices so the police could potentially recover the deleted videos from my phone. I hope that they would, because they're all exculpatory. But it's interesting to kind of look at this from the perspective of the judges. Do the judges want to be seen as sympathizers or seen as overturning a decision which might put a female in a position where she was actually made a false allegation? What are the impacts on the judges and their credibility or their reputation. If they are to rule that I am justly innocent, what happens to the judges? Who knows? Still fighting. One love. It is Tuesday, September 26th. 1 week from today, I will be hopefully not in custody, but my appeal hearing will have been completed. And the judges will either rule that they're going to overturn the appeal, they're going to grant the appeal, or they will hold their decision for a later date. And if that happens, it means we're still in the fight. And if that happens, I'll be released back into the same house arrest conditions that I'm under right now. For now, I'm just hanging with my main man, Chunky, a little Boston Terrier who's been here through this entire thing. I wish you could be a witness because you were there for everything. Wish you could speak, buddy. This morning I went through just an absolutely amazing experience. My girlfriend set up a little meditation experience for the two of us. It was absolutely magical. She got 2 white canvases and we did some manifestation and some visualization and drew out images that reflected our future. And I'm hopeful, and it really helped to ground me and recenter me. So I'm extraordinarily grateful for her, and also for the support of the rest of my family, and obviously the support of all of my friends and acquaintances and newfound connections through CCMF and BMF and Complex Trauma Canada and the Equal Share Parenting Initiative. I'm forever grateful for finding a network of people who understand what it's like to go through something like this. That's all for today. I'm grateful. Still working on the book and working on some more video evidence. I'll be back down at my lawyer's tomorrow to go through more video evidence and put together an exculpatory PowerPoint presentation for the appeal hearing. So I'm looking forward to that. Staying positive. We're still in the fight, right, Junks? We're still in the fight. One love. Thursday, September 28th, back down at my lawyer's. It was incredibly hardened last night. We had an amazing FOFA, Family and Friends of Falsely Accused meeting, joined by the federal ombudsman for victims of crime, Ben Roebuck, and Susan Chang, the director of the Men and Families Conference, and Diana Davison, who's a legal researcher and founder of the Lighthouse Project. It was really great to see so many families come together for purposes of support when a loved one had been falsely accused of a crime. Back up bright and early this morning, left Barrie at 5:45 a.m. To come down to Toronto to do more work on preparing for the appeal hearing, which is 4.5 days away. 3 days until I surrender and 4.5 days away until the appeal is heard. So I'm anxious, I'm nervous, as you can probably hear in my voice and see in the shaking of the phone. And I'm putting my faith in the justice system, or the legal system, that will return a just outcome. I'm getting ready for probably a couple of days of pretty hardcore work, assisting my lawyers, feeling good about being able to assist them, and looking forward to a positive outcome. Saturday morning will be potentially my last discussion with my son, who is 8 years old. I love you like crazy, buddy. And I will fight hard to make sure that you never have to go through something like this. And the mere statement of someone, the mere allegation that something happened, even when there's a mountain of exculpatory evidence that proves your innocence, doesn't put you in the same position that I'm in right now. The fight goes on. Fight with me. One love. It's Friday, September 29th, 8 a.m. Up bright and early this morning, and drove down from Barrie to Toronto to my lawyer's office.
More work today, putting together all the exculpatory and innocence proving clips. The appeal hearing on Tuesday. Very grateful for my lawyers for working so hard to make this all happen and put it all together, and also very grateful that they're confident to let me assist in that process and hopefully let them focus on the legal stuff. I got a ruling yesterday back from the family courts. I made my cost submissions for the family courts to counter the $12,000 ruling made against me. And it appears the judge would like to take $12,000 out of the money that I had set aside for child support and use it to pay her lawyers. They have completely disavowed or removed any cost submissions that I've made on precedent and on law. And my good friend Rich just got a cost award yesterday as well. So he actually was awarded $35,000. He spent $140,000, and his ex conspired with another woman to press criminal charges and have him arrested, and also internationally abducted his children. But $140,000 and he gets $35,000 back. It's not enforceable. I'm owed more than $100,000 from my ex, and I'm ordered to pay $12,000 to her lawyers out of the money that I'd set aside for child support. What kind of a system do we live in? We're still fighting. Fight with me. One love. It is 8:14 p.m. on Saturday, September 30th. I am downtown Toronto, sitting in a little bit of gridlock. Just got back from my lawyers, where I spent the last 8 hours working on exculpatory video, which will be played in the appeal trial on Tuesday morning. It's been my sole focus for the last little while. In addition, it occurred to me that in the family court trial that I was in last week on Thursday, where the judge ruled that I owed $12,000 in costs for my ex's lawyer's bills, he ruled that I should ignore the requirements of a passport application. The passport application for my son said that you needed to include all court documents. They originally sent it saying that there was no court proceedings, which there clearly are. And the passport application said include all documents, so I insisted on following the protocol of the passport application. And the judge ruled that that was not proper, that I shouldn't follow the requirements of the Government of Canada passport application. And some little letter proposed by my ex's counsel would be just fine. I made $11,500 worth of cost submissions, and they just squashed the whole thing. Lost business, spent 120 hours preparing my submissions, and they dismissed the physical abuse, which resulted in a broken thumb for me, perpetrated by my ex on myself. The emotional abuse, the psychological abuse, the financial abuse. The judge just called it noise, despite the fact that I had proof in my submissions that they were not allegations, they were founded. I showed them x-rays of my hand, but they dismissed it as noise. I wonder if that would be the same thing if the gender roles were reversed. Anyways, feeling optimistic about Tuesday, realistic, but on the optimistic side. Still in the fight. Fight with me. One love. One last thing. Today is Truth and Reconciliation Day. Monday is the International Day for Wrongful Convictions, recognizing wrongful convictions. I want truth. I want reconciliation. And I don't want to be wrongfully convicted anymore. Still in the fight. Fight with me.
Well, it's 1 day to go until I surrender into custody and 2 days to go until the appeal hearing. Just finished an amazing webinar with some fantastic gentlemen on preparing for incarceration. We had some great question and answer. I think it was really quite positive. Looking forward to hearing what my lawyers have to say about submissions from yesterday, and very much looking forward to a positive outcome on Tuesday. Not much else to say really at this point. Nerves are pretty high. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I think I've done almost everything. I'm just going to get out of the sun. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from my lawyers about their their opening arguments. If you're able to join, I'd certainly appreciate any support you've got to offer. Something's got to be done. This kind of abuse can't continue to happen, perpetuated largely against men, largely against innocent men. I wonder sometimes how many innocent men are stuck in positions where they're not able to help their families anymore. I'm still here. I'm still in the fight. Yesterday was Truth and Reconciliation Day. Tomorrow is International Day for Wrongful Convictions. And I think that it's a sign that I'm surrendering into custody on the International Day of Wrongful Convictions. I hope you'll be there to join me on Tuesday morning. Trying to stay calm. Still in the fight. One love. This will be my second last post in the series. It's October 2nd, and today is the International Day recognizing wrongful convictions. Today is also the day that I will surrender into custody in advance of my appeal hearing tomorrow. It is an anxious day. It's a nervous day. This morning I put on a pot of coffee and thought, is this the last pot of coffee I'm ever going to make before I'm incarcerated? Is this the last time that I'm going to wake up next to my girlfriend? Is this the last time that I'm going to, pick my dog up and take him out and play with him in the backyard? Is this the last day that I'm going to enjoy a meal with my family? There's a ton of anxiety, and I think it needs to be addressed that the courts are complicit in making this anxiety and this abuse happen. They're not willing to look at the truth. They're not willing to look at completely exculpatory information. They're not willing to. They're more interested in kowtowing to social justice warriors than they are to pursuing the actual truth. I hope that's not the case tomorrow at my appeal hearing, but that's the way the courts have behaved, not only for me, but for many, many men across the country. So I've got a bunch of stuff to do, a bunch of preparations to make in advance of tomorrow, or actually in advance of tonight when I surrender into custody at Toronto East Detention Centre. I'm very grateful for all the support from the CCMF community, from the Complex Trauma Canada community, from the Best Interest of the Child community. It's really been heart-wrenching, and it's made me cry on several occasions. The amount of texts and emails and love and support that people have because they know the kind of corruption that's going on. I hope for the best tomorrow. I'm prepared for the worst. I'm optimistic for a positive outcome, but realistic that overturning an appeal is a challenging task. My lawyers are ready. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a big fight, and I hope you can join us online tomorrow morning. I'll post a link at the end of this video. I'm in the fight. One love.